Call the Clay Township Planning Commission meeting to order for Wednesday, June 25th. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Come on, man.
It is warm in here, guys. Roll call, please.
Harold Bain.
Here.
Whitey Simon.
Here.
Mark Bouchard.
Here.
Chris Hiltunen.
Here.
Christine Holcomb.
Here.
Robert Muesling here. Wayne Torno.
Here.
Margie Ferris.
Here.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Here, thank you. Item number 4, approval/amendments to the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda. Unless you have any additions.
Amend it. I'll second.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include under number 5, approval of minutes of 5B, approval of the minutes of January 22nd, 2025.
Do we have a second?
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing none. How about we just do out loud, not a roll call for this one? Oh, go ahead. If you already got it, go for it.
Yeah, Whitey Simon.
Aye.
Harold Bain.
Aye.
Mark Bouchard.
Aye.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb.
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
Margie Ferris.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Yes. Item number 5, approval of minutes. 5A would be the approval of April 23rd, 2025 draft minutes. Any motion or discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 23rd, 2025 as submitted.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Whitey Simon.
Aye.
Harold Bain.
Aye.
Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
I'll abstain, I was absent.
Christine Holcomb.
Aye.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Abstain, absent.
And Margie Ferris.
Aye.
Kathy Schweikart.
Aye. Thank you. Item 5B would be the approval of the minutes from January 1st, 2025. January 22nd, what did I say, 21st? I'm sorry. 1/22/25, sorry. Can't read my own writing.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 22nd, 2025.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Whitey Simon.
Abstain, not here.
Harold Bain.
Yeah, I was abstained, I wasn't there either.
Mark Bouchard.
Abstained, I wasn't here.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb.
Abstain, absent that day.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Abstain, I don't think I was there.
You were not.
Margie Ferris.
I abstain as well, I was not there.
Kathy Schweikart.
I abstained. I was not present also. We did not have a quorum. Robert and Chris helped us out by opening the meeting and doing what they could, which was very little, obviously, because we didn't have a quorum. But this is the first time since January we had the two of you in the same room to make this happen, so thank you guys. So, all right, moving on to rules for public comment and public hearing comments. Christine Holcomb will read those rules. There you go.
Rules for public comment and public hearing comments. 1, all comments must be made through the chairperson. Comments directed to the applicant from the audience are prohibited. 2, individuals wishing to speak have time limits, 3 minutes for each member of the general public and 6 minutes for a spokesperson of a larger group, such as a subdivision association, condo association, business group, and similar groups. 3, anyone wishing to speak is asked to sign the sign-in sheet provided. However, anyone wishing to speak will be given the opportunity. 4, each individual will be allowed to speak once. It will be the chairperson's decision as to whether rebuttal comments will be allowed. 5, citizens may appoint a spokesperson to represent those who agree on a point of view. And 6, public a specific public hearing request should be made during the public hearing for that item.
Thank you, Chris. Moving on to item number 6, which is new business. 6A is regarding the applicant of 7350 South Channel Drive with the parcel number that's designated, and I would ask our planner, Karen, to come forward.
So tonight we have a site plan review for 7350 South Channel. The applicant is requesting to use this site as an inn and bar. The existing site is currently operating as a marina. There is a clubhouse that the applicant intends to use as the inn and bar. The applicant is interested in having food trucks visit the location as well. They are requesting the construction of 2 pavilions. Inns and restaurants are permitted use in this district. So when we do a site plan review, we look at what the general district requirements are as well as what the requirements are for the particular use. So they do meet most of the general requirements for the C3 business district. The only information we're missing is the landscaping. They're required to have a certain percentage of landscaping, and while it's likely that they meet that, we would need just the confirmation of that calculation. And also, we would need to see a loading area indicated on the site for any potential deliveries and whatnot. And then for section 2037, that's the section that contains the regulations for inns, motels, and hotels. Item number 1, ingress and egress to the motel shall be only from a major thoroughfare. Patrons would access the site off South Channel Drive. And number 2, there shall be at least 800 square feet of each lot area, of the lot area for each guest room. It's likely that that site will meet that, but again, since we don't have information on how many guest rooms there'll be, we would need confirmation on that. The maximum lot coverage of all buildings, including accessory buildings, shall not exceed 25% of the area within the lot lines of the land developed at any one time. Again, they probably meet this, but we do need to see that calculation. The front 25 feet of the lot shall be a landscape buffer zone, unpaved, and shall not be used for off-street parking. The applicant needs to confirm that this standard is met. Trash dumpsters shall be screened from adjacent properties by vegetation, landscaping, or fences pursuant the requirements of section 3-10 or 3.10. The applicant needs to confirm the standard is met. No kitchen or cooking facilities shall be provided in the guest room. The applicant needs to confirm the standard is met. And the minimum floor area for each guest room shall be 250 feet. Again, the applicant needs to confirm that this standard is met. And the applicant has provided a parking lot plan. They provided 42 parking spaces measuring either 10 by 18 or 10 by 20 with a maneuvering lane of 24 feet arranged in a 90-degree parking pattern. Parking spaces are required to have a minimum of 20 feet. And the number of parking spaces required are as follows, and we have the section for inns, marinas, and any establishment selling food or drink. So depending on what percentage of the building is being used for what, or how many patrons they're having, that will factor in how many parking spaces are needed. And until we have some of these questions answered, we don't really know exactly what that number would be. So I'd say at this time, the applicant is here, so they can come up and present more new information, but until we see the stuff on a site plan, I would recommend not making a decision until we have all the information that we need.
Thank you, Karen, appreciate that. I see Gary's here from the building department. Gary, would you like to add anything?
We're anxious to hear what the petitioner has for us.
Okay, so at this point, you're all set at the moment. Okay. Petitioner, if you'd like to come to the podium, state your name. More than one can show up, it's totally up to you. Just both of you state your name for the record.
Thomas DeWicki, 6880 Green Drive, Harson's Island.
William Fritz, 8837 County Drive,
Thank you.
Clay Township.
What would you like to add? Obviously, you heard Karen.
Yeah, and I've never had to do this before, so.
Sure. Are you in receipt of Karen's review?
Yeah, yes, I am, and
Okay.
I tried to answer all the questions, I just really wasn't sure, the format in which it needed to be done. I did the calculations, and I can answer the questions. I don't have it in a site plan.
Did you have a pre-meeting with Gary and/or
Yeah, I
Karen?
did, and then provided with the original site plan, then she sent me a list of questions.
Okay,
And there, the first one was, there should be at least 800 square feet of lot area for each guest room. Well, lot 414 is 2.83 acres, which is 123,000 square feet.
maybe I can ask you this. Have you submitted, or do you have with you, an updated site plan?
I do not.
Okay, go ahead.
I do not. I gave the information to Matt Mueller, who did the first site plan, but I have not received anything. 6,400, we had 8 rooms that we're proposing to do there. And Margie was out, she saw what they look like. So we needed 6,400 square feet, so we have well above that. I just don't, the information for lot 414 is on all the surveys, so you know how big it is. It's easy to calculate it. Said 25% of the area, for buildings. The existing square foot proposed is 3,600 square feet, and that's with the proposed pavilions, which is like 6% of the total square footage of lot 414. The front 25 feet, I'm not sure on that one because I think out there, the front is the river, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be. I would think that the front is the river, so I don't know what
Yeah, I
the,
think that's what it is on the island, that it's the river for a buffer zone, but that's the south channel.
street address is front, right?
I'm sorry,
Street address is the front.
yes.
So it's not the river, it's the street address. Wherever your mailbox is, that's really technically the front of your house. Wasn't that
That's what the township says.
That's what the township says.
Well, yeah,
It is, but,
either way, we meet both
You meet
ways.
it, Tom, I know that. You meet it by a long shot.
Yeah,
I understand
yeah,
that
yeah,
totally,
yeah.
but I'm just saying the front is technically the river.
The trash dumpsters, we use it, it's an existing business, and we have a dumpster, we have no neighbors, and it is screened by a privacy fence for our storage area that's existing. Kitchen cooking, no, there's no kitchens or bathrooms in any of the rooms. It's more like a bed and breakfast, there's two bathrooms upstairs, 4 of the 8 guest rooms. Minimum floor area of each guest unit, we don't meet that. This place was built in 1872, and people didn't spend a lot of time in their rooms except to sleep. We have 4 guest rooms that are 120 square feet, one that's 330, one that's 2 that are 190, and one that's 208. So I don't know if that's just, when we started looking at this, we thought, okay, what is this place? Well, we named it the Duck Inn, okay? I thought it was cool. So, is it an inn? Is it a bed and breakfast? I don't know, and I don't know if the requirements for a bed and breakfast are different.
They are.
I'm assuming on that square footage, when they're looking at it, they're assuming that there's a bathroom in each room, which would add square footage to it, but there isn't. It shows here we provided 42 parking spaces in the first site plan. Through the requirements here, they're like the 8 rooms, so that would say that we need 10 parking spots for that. The bar and patio, 2,800 square feet. We haven't got anything of capacity or anything, occupancy of what they're going to allow us. I'm assuming it's probably 50. I don't know. But at 2,800 feet, that's 28 parking spots. So that's 38, so we exceed that. The marina, the spaces for the marina, that's a hard one because, we have 144 wells. We've had the place for 4 years, and we haven't been able to rent more than 50 of them. It's, for whatever reason, people don't want to do this. We had to change our business plan. The business plan is to make it a destination for boaters, and that's what people want. So we're renting, let's say we rent 50 wells, that would be 25 parking spots that we need for the wells. Well, we have, it has nothing to do with the site plan that we proposed. You know, the driveway is 880 feet by 48. That gives me 80 spots of parallel parking plus 20 on the grass down there, so, you know, and there's nothing in any of this that shows a boat well as a parking spot, which it kind of is if people are coming by boat to use the place. So, hope I answered all the questions.
I'm sure we may have more, but just one quick question. Karen, is this before us as just the inn and bar, or
We
for
said
the,
it was an existing marina. So
right?
when we do the parking calculation, we have to make sure there's not going to be a conflict. We're not kicking one use out or over, you know, we need to figure out what the parking situation is, that we know there's an existing marina. We're not doing a site plan for the marina portion, because that's already existing. But at least when it comes to terms of parking, we need to make sure there's not a conflict. So that's why we're trying to figure out how many parking spaces are on the site, because in theory, if you got the inn going, you have people coming to visit and utilize the, you know, whatever food truck facilities, wherever you plan. If it's a full house, we have to make sure that there's going to be enough, and we're not ending up with a situation where people are parking off-site or off-street,
Okay,
or, yeah, on the street. So that's where, it's only the parking portion that we are looking at, what all is there.
okay. Gary, after hearing their presentation, do you have anything further to add? Questions?
Well, we would still like to, as a building department, have a look inside and see what exactly we have there, because we really don't know. You know, we talk about the old building and the inn, but we really haven't been inside. Myself, the fire chief, we would definitely like to have a walk around and see what we have. I would also like to have our other inspectors there to see what kind of work has been done to renovate this to a point where this building has been vacant for a number of years, not in use. I know that there, or at least I'm under the understanding that it has taken on some water, and to see what work has been done there. So we would be very interested in knowing what renovations have been taking place, making sure that if we are inviting the public in here, that it is safe for them.
Okay, thank you. How about board members? Questions, comments?
So one thing that I've seen on here that we haven't really talked about and isn't really addressed in the review is the pavilions. What are you planning on using them for? We had, if they're gonna be used for like rentals, those would require additional parking spots, correct, Karen?
I believe the pavilions were going to be for people to sit and eat, correct? Or for the food truck, so.
So it's kind of outdoor dining. So at that point, I think we need to look at what we need for additional parking for the pavilions. I know that's one of the sticking points that we had, was the pavilions, or the tents locations with Cabana Blue.
That was,
So I don't want to, you know, just to be fair to everybody, is in the same sense that, I mean, I think we need to take a look at that as well with the parking. So that's, if you're going to use it for outdoor dining, and if you have a food truck there and you're bringing in other people that aren't staying at the inn or necessarily at the marina, and, I mean, it's, you're essentially using it as an outdoor restaurant. So that needs, I think, needs to be accounted for.
I would hope that you take into account the boat slips.
That was another issue that we had with Cabana Blue, and that's, you know, is the ordinance is written, that you have to have one parking spot for every 2 slips. And that's, I know that,
I don't know.
Not mine, mine's off.
Mine's up too.
So I don't-
Somebody's going.
It's the standard.
Usually comes in that.
Found it, skip.
Guilty.
Guilty. Okay.
so that's, I mean, I get, when we had Cabana Blue here in front of us, that's one of the things that we went back and forth. I mean, we understand what you're saying, that if you're coming in a boat, that you're not using a parking spot, but unfortunately, it's kind of a sticking point to where there's a regulation that's written, and that's what we have to abide by.
And I understand that,
So-
most regulations are written to cover a broad spectrum of common things.
Correct.
This is not your normal situation, so sometimes you have to use other ways of determining things.
And we did in that project also, and it took many months, but we also gave them, I'm going to use the word, correct me if I'm wrong, like a credit or a variance. I'm not sure exactly
They
what
would
it
have
was.
had to get, I don't think I was here for that.
You might not have been.
But they probably would have had to go to ZBA.
No, we didn't have to go to ZBA. No, there
No,
was,
they
in our ordinance, there was a,
Remember, they were talking about off-street parking, they were gonna valet park at a different lot and everything like that.
but we also gave them, there was a formula when we had,
You have credit for something for the restaurant.
yeah, we did.
Against the-
So there's ways to not have to.
Yeah, I
be told
remember that.
Yeah, I just don't remember the terminology. You can look at that.
We have a ton of parking, and on the property, we have 7 acres of grass. If we wanted to park over there. I do want to comment on something Gary said.
Sure.
The place was never vacant. Okay, this has been a business on 7 different restaurants, clubs in the last 150 years. The last owners, they took very good care of the place. It never got wet inside.
That's why I said allegedly.
Yeah, and I would welcome you guys coming in, because I want you. There's things we're doing, like putting in the nest system for the carbon monoxide and smoke. We're not sure we want to make sure we're safe, we got our exit signs with it. So we would like you guys to come in and look at that and tell us what you'd like us to do, and take a look at it. We welcome that. Safety is our first concern. So, this is an existing business. Yes, it hasn't been used quite this way, but, fundraisers, weddings, people in the marina, friends and family who've been coming there, before we bought it. And quite frankly, we got it and looked at it and had people come in. Dave Weber was one of my partners, and, a licensed builder. He brought guys in, they checked over the electrical and the plumbing. We knew at that point we had to put a new septic field in. We had 2 septic fields, one of them was bad, so we got a permit and put in, a nice big, commercial septic field. And that was, the purpose was that we were going to be using the place, kind of in the same manner it's been used off and on for 153 years. So, we live right there. We own the house next door. We live down the road. Bill and I are Clay Township residents, and, we're very cognizant of our neighbors, and, trying to be respectful and do things the way we think they should be done. And, and again, our business plan, when you have 153 slips and you're renting out 50 of them, that doesn't even keep the lights on, So, we had to change the business plan, and we looked around, and people want a destination. They're starving for this. The island needs it. 1900, 600,000 people lived in Detroit. 200,000 of them came to Harson's Island every summer. And now look at the place. And people are doing great things, and we appreciate it all. I think, what we're trying to do is a good thing for the island, and we're not going anywhere. Like I said, we're all neighbors. So, I mean, when we look at the business plan again, we are assuming and can show numbers that a vast majority of our patrons are going to be coming by boat. And that's, and we have 100 vacant parking spots for them,
So I think a couple things that I'm looking at, and just to talk, point of talking is which direction to go, the inn or bed and breakfast, because it sounds like that's going to be probably a big determining factor, because if you can't meet some of the square footage requirements, I'm assuming that would have to go to ZBA for variances, so maybe, a bed and breakfast is the way it goes, and it can still be named an inn, I think.
Well,
I think you
that's
can keep
like-
the name whatever you want, I don't think that
I call it
matters.
the duck den. I collect duck decoys and,
Sure.
I'm big into it, so, I got to display all this stuff, right?
And then
And I
another,
miss Bill's Duck Inn.
yeah, for sure,
Yes.
but I think that's probably an important point to decide which way, because that's going to determine which way you guys got to go for your,
Yeah, I think when Karen and I sat down, we were just, going at it a little bit, looking at things, and it said, inn, it's Duck Inn, okay, well, let's look at the inn. Well, it doesn't look like it's real invasive. Really didn't even look at, if I would've looked at it at that point and saw that the square, I would say,
Sure.
don't way these meet that.
and I think that's why, part of this, so maybe, going towards the direction of the bed and breakfast, so that you know
I
that
just
that's your
didn't want to
focal
cook anybody
point.
breakfast.
Right. Understood.
Well, you don't, just keep cereal and milk in the refrigerator.
Yeah, just cereal, and that's it. And then as far as parking, I think the discussion when Cabana Blue was there is, if you say there's 153 slips, so I think that if there are a portion of them that are marked as transient slips, so that they are not overnight slips, they are just transient slips for customers to come and go, I think that's where it factored into the number of parking slips you needed. So if they're designated transient slips, and they would have to say transient slips, I'm sure that you would rather have all 153 rented out to, for seasonal, I'm sure you would.
No.
No?
Not really.
Okay.
No, the transits come and they go.
Sure, but if you had them all rented out, then you know that was your business, and that,
Yeah,
so,
Well, marinas aren't great businesses.
No,
Unless you're safe harbor.
Well, just transfer them all to transient slips, Tom. Who else?
Yeah, well, that would hurt some people's feelings.
but there's 153 there, so I think if you kept a few
We
for
actually have
seasonal.
space for a lot more, and I know like Cabana Blue, these are actual boat slips. We have thousands of feet of wall.
Yeah.
Where we could park boats, which they do over there. There's no rafting off here. These are legitimate slips. So that's, again, I know that when you look at criteria and you look at ordinances, they're built to cover a broad range of most common things you run into. Harson's Island is not common in any way. There's not a whole lot there that's conforming from the get-go. We're just looking at what this place was for a long time and what it could be. Very privileged to have the opportunity to be caretakers of this special place. It's the last original place out of the 12 hotels. And to me, that's a privilege to be able to, be the caretaker for the time I'm here and try to do something well and do something nice for the community, which I love. So, you just tell me what you need us to do and we'll try to.
One question is, you said that your site plan is being looked at to be updated. Do you have a timeline on that?
I sent it over to Matt, all the questions, and, and I started looking at it. Again, I haven't done this before, so I didn't know, what do you need? Do I need a certified mathematician to say that these numbers are right? Or do I just look at the thing and say there's 2.3 acres, that's 123,000 square feet? If I meet that, and most of these numbers are pretty easy to figure out.
It just needs to be put on a site plan. You don't have to have certified anybody, Matt would be the one
Right.
to do
I didn't
that.
know, when I was talking to him, he said, what do you want me to do? Because, when you're doing this stuff, all this stuff adds up,
Oh, for you, for sure.
And, we're,
You need a parking site plan would be great.
which we,
Yeah, but you're, I have to agree with him, because he'll tune it, because you're an inn and a marina, you're shoving them both together, and it can be confusing at times.
well, and I understand that, that's why, with a.
Because I know where you're at, Tom. You got the
Yeah.
marina in the front, then you got to go all the way to the, you call it the front of the water right there to get to it. All you got to pass all these parking spaces. When in case somebody parks over here and takes some spots, when in case you have a full house. And then just worrying about the street parking, because that's not a very comfortable street to be parking on.
No, there's no need to park on the street, we have a ton of parking.
I know, but
And, and that was the other things I was looking at, do I need, even though we have plenty of parking, it's never been an issue in the marina for the existing business.
A long walk from the street down to the back.
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to park on the street there.
No, but you should put up a speed sign up there that says 7350.
They park all the time on the street.
That's right. To access their cottages, their homes.
Or go fishing or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any necessity for that.
No.
For parking on the street.
Maybe the next step, in my thought process would be maybe to work with Karen and Matt together to develop the site plan that you need. I think Karen would be able to give you all the information that we would want to see on a site plan, and Matt is familiar with that type of stuff, so he, maybe that's the best, I don't know, I would think would be the best
I would
route.
agree with you. That would make, if Karen obviously is available,
Yeah, all right, I mean, you have my review, and the review is basically the regulations plus what we discussed about the outdoor dining aspect. Typically, all this information should be on a site plan, because that is essentially the record that the township's gonna keep on this. They don't necessarily keep any, they'll keep other documents, but that's the main thing that they're looking at. And that's what you're providing, saying that you're gonna do, so, yeah, we can figure that out. I can give you this and, plus the outdoor dining thing of all the information that needs to be on there, so it's understood to whoever's making your plan, all this stuff needs to be on there.
Well, and that's where I got a little confused, because there was some conversation that, no, we did not need a site plan for the existing marina, but now we do,
But you need a site plan for the parking.
for the parking, which encompasses the existing marina. That's where my confusion came in. I told Matt, hold up, why are we doing a site plan for something that's an existing business that's been there for 50 years? To accommodate parking. It's its own entity with the parking. We just share a common driveway, So, and I think, when we show 42 spots, and I hate to be redundant, we show 42 spots according to the 8 rooms and the square footage of the buildings, we only need 38.
Do we know what the business is classified as of right now? If you're saying it's been an operating open business for...
No, I'm saying the marina's been open.
I know, but I'm saying the business that you're talking about now, because it has to be determined whether it's going to be a bed and breakfast or an inn. So that will determine, pretty much everything else, the direction you need to go, so...
Yeah,
That would
I
probably
understand
be-
that. The reality of the rooms there, it's not like, those are like
Right.
carryover rooms. People want to stay, for whatever reasons. It's not like we're really going out and pushing that we want to rent rooms when we have a bar downstairs.
For a bed and breakfast, and I am sorry, I haven't been to the site, I don't know what the building is. For a bed and breakfast, it has to basically be a single-family home. I don't know if that qualifies.
That's probably why we came up with the inn thing.
And you're only limited to 4 rooms for a bed and breakfast.
No, we don't meet that criteria.
And so if you want, I would say the inn, if you want to pursue this, the inn is likely the way to go. The room, you're not meeting the dimensional criteria for the rooms, but there is a board called the Zoning Board of Appeals that, based on how you present to them, this is an existing building. You're not building new, you're using what's already on site.
Right.
So they're a board that you can appeal to, and they may grant you an exception. That's a possibility that could happen if you wanted to continue to pursue this. But unfortunately, the planning commission doesn't have the wiggle room to say, we're going to dismiss this 250. The ZBA can say, we understand that this building's historical in character, rooms are built differently this way, we think this could work, and they could grant that variance.
Well, what if we don't rent the rooms out to the public, that they're only available to members?
It's still the
You're
same.
running into a private club, then.
Well, the possibility, or we just don't rent the rooms out. And we use the rooms for staffing.
You need a liquor license, a club license.
What's that?
Club license would then be required for the
He's talking about something different.
Yeah, a resort license, you mean?
Yeah.
No, we have a Class C.
But in case time, you just exclude the rooms.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Just
That's the
exclude
sticking point
totally.
here, is these rooms. I mean, How do you feel about that?
No, I agree.
I mean, because we can't meet the criteria of a bed and breakfast or.
Well, right now you can if you go to the ZBA.
You
Go to
might be able
ZBA,
to.
or if there's plans to modify, if you have 8 rooms, is there a way to do any kind of internal modification where maybe you end up with less rooms, but they're bigger? You know, I don't know what makes sense for you.
Well, what makes sense for us is we have about 120 days in a good season to make hay.
When did you start this process?
This process?
Yeah, when did you start this process? Did
Well,
you
I-
have a pre-site meeting plan?
Yeah, I don't know, what was it, a month ago? But it was
In March?
maybe it's just me, I was kind of confused, because at that point, I really didn't know, or, again, in my mind, feel that, because it was existing, and I didn't really feel that I had, that I knew that I was going to have to come to the ZBA, and it wasn't until the last minute that it was determined that, yes, you have to do that if you want to get on the June docket, so it was kind of a scramble on my end to get.
And the liquor
get this-
license.
And we're waiting for, getting a liquor license.
Wasn't sure we could get a license.
Okay, so you have a license now?
We do.
And
You got-
and the liquor commission came out and did their inspection, and they gave us the go-ahead. I mean, I would assume, I know you don't have any ordinances regarding liquor licenses in Clay Township, but they probably let you, gave you notice.
No.
They don't even do that, huh?
I didn't, and they don't need to, so.
Yeah. Well, I have a copy of it here if you'd like to see it.
No, that's okay. Okay, planning commission members, got more questions? Go ahead.
Have you done anything with the engineering-related items from PCE concerning the grading and drainage and Eagle permits?
Again, when I looked at that, I was assuming that was in regard to when we go to break ground to put in the pavilions, which probably isn't going to happen until fall, because we don't want to have a construction, run the business in the middle of construction.
You may want to make some kind of a comment on that,
Yeah, I did, yeah.
or all of it, basically.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what that was, because we're not changing anything. But if we
Verify
break
that
ground,
with,
then we would need,
PCE.
yeah.
So what you're trying to do is you want to get going with business. You want to open this up for the summer.
Yeah, we've been,
So
In
probably
fact-
you're going to have to need to exclude those rooms for now. You could always see the ZBA in the future
Yeah.
Good
and
point.
get them on there. But maybe for now, maybe exclude those rooms
right.
for use,
Well-
right to the public.
And right, and not being familiar with this process, and when I came in and proposed, the pavilions, if I would have known that basically everything you do on a commercial piece of property has to have a site plan and go through, planning, I wasn't familiar with that process. There's several phases to this project. We had to change direction in what we started to do when I was partners with Dave and Doug. And that was, we had a whole different outlook on things. So, that has changed, and Bill and I are taking a different route, and this is just phase one of it, just to start, bringing some revenue into it, because that place is it's just an open wound, right now.
So you're saying you've never had to deal with site plan at all?
No.
On any of your projects?
No. Well, I've never owned any commercial property in Clay Township.
Other than this piece?
Yeah. So, that being said, if excluding the rooms is would expedite this and, take some of the questions out, and then, that's what we would be willing to do. Because there's a lot more to this, of what we want to do in the future. And again, now knowing this, we're going to put all this together, even though we may not be tackling it right away. We just want to show you what the whole thing is going to look like. This is just phase
But if you
one.
put it in phase one, your items of need in order to get a permit of occupancy for phase one. And start with that.
Yeah, because you could always revisit the rooms
Yeah.
again later on. Maybe you can tear a wall out and expand the rooms, and maybe go down to 4 and still, over people to stay.
Or go to the ZBA and
Or
get
go
that
to the-
approved, for making them a little smaller, because it is more like a bed and breakfast. It does have that feel, because you
Right.
don't have individual bathrooms in each room,
Right.
so.
Like a hostel.
It is
Or
bigger
something
than
else.
that.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Oh, I know, I've been there. I know where it
It's
is.
nice.
Probably something else a long time ago. Yeah, and the occupancy, I guess I'm confused on that too, because I didn't know that we didn't have occupancy.
Yeah, it's
Gary would know
existing.
that. Do they have occupancy for this building?
We haven't done a walkthrough at all, so that's a good question, because I don't believe that we should at least do that in order to allow them to occupy.
Robert, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I mean,
I thought he was trying to say something.
I was, but that's.
That's okay, that's okay.
I've got just a comment on the rooms. I was on our Historic District Commission in Romeo for like 13 years, and there should be an easy workaround on this. I mean, it's a historic building. I don't know if anybody's ever designated it as such, but,
no, I looked into it, but it just,
Yeah.
there wasn't really any benefits to us to do
yeah,
that. You know,
there should be some kind of workaround on it, I would think.
right?
Because it is existing, and it's been there since I can remember.
Yeah, and it's been occupied. So, you know, that's, and again, I welcome, you know, we want to make sure everything's safe and welcome everybody to come in and take a look at it.
Well, would that be the first step then, if it is an occupied building or an occupied business, that if they're just trying to get business up and running, that they would work with the building department to make sure that the building is ready to be open for business, and then when they want to do modifications, they would come to planning commission with a site plan showing that they're going to make modifications to the building and the site. If they're just trying to open up a current business, I don't know.
He says it's never been shut, it's been a current business, I would,
I know there's a time frame. I don't know, Gary, what it is, if there's a business that hasn't been open for X amount of years, that they would have to come back to building for inspections and,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been vacant for a period of time, especially during high water. I don't think that there's been anything in this thing for an extended period of time. So, yeah, is there an exact date on that? Probably not. Our ordinances probably don't call out an exact amount of time, but it's been extensive.
We still have to get the fire chief in there, because he's gonna have to look at that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any of
Yeah.
our walkthroughs.
Yeah, he
that
came
we
out, I don't
do,
think we're in the
Harold,
building.
I walked through.
Yeah, he just looked at the He walked outside. through my building.
Exactly.
that's ours.
So I guess here's
Well, I think he did
You don't know.
Here's my question. What, if the building's been operating, what is the classification that it's been operating under?
club,
So if it's go,
Marina Club, it's,
well, if.
Part of the
but if-
marina
So if the house is classified under a club
or marina?
and you're going, or marina, either way, but now you're going and taking the building and changing the use. You're taking it from a club/marina, and you're taking the use and turning it into a bar/inn, or bed and breakfast, whichever way you decide to go. So now you're changing the use. So when you change the use, you have to have the use approved and make sure that that it meets codes for all that. Because if it's a club and no one's using the bedrooms to lodge in, and now you're opening up an inn or bed and breakfast, that now you're changing the use of that building, so you don't have the same requirements inside that building. So, and then you're gonna need an occupancy, which, you'll be given by the fire marshal, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or between the use and the fire marshal, you're given the occupancy. So that tells you how many people you can have in that building. So I think you may need to know some of that to give us the adequate information that we need to know. I think it may be advantageous to look at going, I don't know if taking the rooms out of the question is necessarily gonna help you or not help you. If that's something that you wanna do, it might be wise to go look at, and talk to the zoning board of appeals or that way you can get everything that you need to do and do what you want to do.
So for him to be able to keep it at, and do business now and keep it as it currently is that possible?
If it's a club and it's
maintained
if
the
it's
same
been a
way?
club and hasn't, because I know there usually is a time frame, and I don't remember what it is. If that building has not been used for, say, a year, and that's just a fictitious time frame, just coming up with this for the example. If that building has not operated in a business as a year, then you have to, even if you're using it in the same use, you have to have it
Check.
a new occupant.
Yeah.
You have to have it, be told that you're allowed to occupy it. So everybody knows that it's safe for the public to go in and use. And that's not just like here, that's any city or township. So, and that's kind of, I think where we're at, and we understand your frustrations, and, you know, that's, I've been in the building industry for 20 years, so, I mean, if I were to go into it, I would probably feel lost trying to look at everything. But we can't make a decision with what we have, because there is missing information, and that's like what we were saying, is if you have, we're doing this, and we have a variance for the room sizes, and so we have these rooms, and we're good with this, and we have this much parking, and this is what we need stated for the marina, this is, then we can make it, we can look at it and say, hey, yeah, you meet all the criteria, and we're good. But right now, we're looking at it, and not all the criteria is met. And we can't, I mean, we can sit here and say, you can do this and you can do this, but in the end, the two of you are writing the checks, and you have to make the decision whether, you know, whether you want to be an inn, or you can make it to an inn, or a bed and breakfast, or just a bar, or maintain it as a club. We can't tell you what you want to do with it. It's not our pocket bills that are paying the bill.
I welcome any of you to come in and take a look at it. Margie was there. It looks like it's been, you know, it's been a bar, restaurant.
I think it's more so you as the owners and paying the bills, and what direction do you want to go? Because we've heard a couple different things. We've got in writing a couple different things. You spoke with Karen. I don't know if you really spoke with Gary or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I talked to Gary. We have a bar there existing. We have a liquor license. We got a great view, and it's a great destination, and we want to open for that. You know, that's pretty straightforward. You know, I realize, you know, we welcome, you know, the fire chief and Gary to come in and take a look at some things.
Okay.
So in order for Gary, for them to open and do business in there, since it's been vacant, the next steps would be to invite you and fire marshal and get everybody in there? Would that be?
Absolutely.
For him to continue? Okay.
So I wasn't there when the fire chief came out to do his site visit, so obviously he didn't go in and look at anything.
Karen, do you have a suggestion how we can, with all this information, the most efficient, effective cost-wise, to make this process go quickly?
Well, I recommend that we table it for tonight. And then I can relay basically all of your options, whether, you know, Robert brought up the outdoor dining thing. So the outdoor dining regulations, both the regulations for the inn, I don't appear, it doesn't appear to be applicable for the bed and breakfast. And just the parking regulations, and then provide that information to whoever's drawing up your plans. and say, I need this info on my site plan. Because sometimes the info is just, and also part of the inn was also the dumpster. We need to make sure, you said it was screened. We just need to see that on the site plan, and
Well,
they know how to drive that out.
I just we moved the dumpster over right now, but usually it's up against the fence, but again, there's,
Wherever the dumpster location is, info on that, that info also just needs to be provided. And so I'll send you all the info that needs to be on there, and then hopefully when we come back in August, we have the information that we need. And whether you guys decide to pursue the inn, or put on the table, or put on the back burner for now, whatever works best for you at the moment. But then hopefully at the July meeting, which again will be the fourth Wednesday of the month, we will have more information for the planning commission to move forward on something. If you do want to do the inn, I would say that the room size, if you want to pursue a variance on that, talk to the building department and schedule to go for the ZBA. That is a public hearing. They do need time. They need to post that 15 days before the meeting. Needs to be posted in the paper, neighboring properties. So they do need a little time for that. So if that's something you want to pursue for next month, I would say talk to the building department as soon as possible to see if that could be scheduled.
Well, and I was gonna say too, if they're trying to get a variance, they may be, and it could go either way. If they want to maintain an inn, you could go for a variance on the room size, or if you wanted to do like a bed and breakfast, you could possibly do a variance on the number of rooms. Correct?
It's got to be
Or no?
It's gotta be a house for the bed and breakfast.
Residential house. Okay.
In the meantime, you said that, obviously, should be the busy season. How do they operate at this particular point?
Well, they can operate as the marina.
Correct.
The restaurant and can't operate until they're approved.
And you have food trucks there?
I talked to Kirk, the township does not have any regulations on food trucks, so.
We also talked about, you've been willing to get everybody in there to take a look, whether it's Gary or any of the other people.
well, we assumed that there was going to have to be, inspection, fire marshal's going to come in, we're going to have to get our,
Would that be advantageous to all parties to happen sooner than later? Or do we need to wait to figure out which direction you're going?
yeah,
Sooner the better.
yeah.
Sooner
this is
the better.
pretty time sensitive when you're in a seasonal business.
Correct.
You know,
And all is welcome.
yeah. Like I said, we've had events, because, and there's been events, with the fundraisers, where it's Warriors, Special Olympics.
For the kids.
Yeah.
When did those events occur?
Oh, we've had events there 3, 4, 5 years since we bought the place.
I mean, it's been ongoing.
Yeah. We had one yesterday, or today, I'm sorry, I'm already losing track of it's a long day.
Poker run today?
Over 300 people. Went off without a glitch.
Beautiful day for it. I heard
Folks,
of
have you all been to Putin Bay? Anybody?
Yes, I have.
Putin Bay, there's a nice quaint place there called the Cruise Nest. And it's very charming. If you've been there, you've seen it. That's when I got involved when Tommy called me. This will be, I think, my 7th or 8th restaurant. I see the charm in this place. And me, I own Browns and owned it this is my 30th year. We have a clean whistle record, which is unheard of. We own 2 of the 2 blocks up in Lexington. We own the 1 block. It makes up the village and all the restaurants up there. I'm blessed to own those. So the reason why I tell you is this isn't my first rodeo. And I really feel for this, and I think it took us 7 minutes to get here from the colony. It's just a beautiful, charming area. I'm a live, I'm a die here. And when I go to Harston's Island, it ails me just to see what beauty that island is. And when Tommy brought me out there, invited me out, and I seen it, it was called the Yacht Club. I myself, I feel sometimes yachts are intimidating, clubs are intimidating. If you don't belong to the club, it's kind of like you're not welcome. So I asked Tommy to change the name to the Flats Resort, and he did, and it just softens things up. And I just put a little post out there just to let people know that in time it's coming. And when I tell you there was thousands of people that reached out to me, not a few hundred, there was thousands. Grand Bend, an hour north of Lexington, all of the pier, down in Detroit Yacht Club, Stacy Fox that runs the Rockberry. We're all very close. So Mike Dunnigan, how do you say his last name, huh? On the mayor? What's that? Dungan. Yeah, Dungan. We were just with him last week, and they're all excited about this. And this is something that they haven't been spoken of, to any of these people. And what I tell you is it's all true. I just don't know if this community wants that. But I would think you would. And if you do, great. If you don't, great. To me as a businessman, I got plenty to do, truly. And Tom Seaman, New Baltimore, they're all, they're whatever, yanking on my chain. But there's only so much time in a day to get things done. And I just see this great value that could be out there in the Flats. The Flats, everyone loves the Flats. So I just thought the Flats Resort would be a huge draw. It's comforting, it's inviting. We live in probably the top waterway, maybe in the country, and nothing's being really grown from it. And if it is, let me know. Bill's Duck Inn, I'm a little biased, was a famous place. So I asked Tommy, let's call it the Duck Inn. It's just charming. And then the Shy Poke, possibly bar, all Flats. Just as you know, we got a pretty good track record when it comes to entertaining restaurants and so on. So it's up to you all, and I get it. The zoning boards, I've been through it. Whatever we need to do, please just tell us. We just need to get things rolling. But whatever you want us to do, and I mean that. If you'd rather be an inn, we'll do an inn. If you'd rather be a...
Well, that's not up to us.
Yeah. No, I know it's not.
That's not up to us. You have to tell us what you want.
Right, I just
And then
want to
we have to follow
get things flowing, or it's going to continue to be like it is, and I'll just move on, and it is what it is. But it could be, it's very charming. Like I said, there's 150 wells there, I believe. And when you got, wonderful people that are itching to come there, we just, again, why we got to have a walkthrough in all the above, which you're more welcome, that. To walk through and see the facility, come, check it out. I'll meet you there in the morning. Start at 6, 7, I'll be there. Truly, we'll check it out. Just show us what we need. We can do it all, do everything. But, Todd, he's on board, Chartier, and it's a great thing that we got going here. If you guys and all this community is welcoming it and wants it. That I don't know.
I think there's no doubt that your business plan is going to be successful. Obviously, you've done this more than once. I have no doubt that area is going to become a very popular place for people to go to. I really think the area is going to embrace it, and it's going to be a wonderful spot. Everybody's going to want to go there. I just don't think it's going to happen tomorrow.
Oh,
so
I agree.
that I'm just, I don't want you to think that this board, or at least I'll speak for myself, would be trying to hold you up. But we do have to make sure that processes are followed the way that they should be to protect the, citizens, the township, and the business owners. So I'm sure if there's a way we could expedite it, I
would love to.
think the board would, because I would love to come there and visit. But
Exactly, you're right. I knew it was going to take more time. Right, Tommy?
I can see, I can see Tom winces every time we talk about that, and I understand that.
He's wincing and you're really not.
Yeah, and we got this.
Which I understand, and I just, I think if you can work with Karen and Matt
Absolutely.
Together and get everything put together and bring it to us, we can, I think
That's all.
everybody here is in favor of it. It's just
Yes, like
process.
you said, it's up to us. You're absolutely right. But it's just to get the revenue going.
Right.
For sure.
Truly, just get the flow going, just to give my man here some relief and.
So you can breathe.
I could see it.
Yeah, truly.
We understand that totally, we get that.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
We're behind you on this, we're just
Thank
trying
you.
to.
That's why I'm asking, is maybe just some extra effort, maybe if you could, if I could be that forward to ask, whatever you could do to help us.
I think your best friend right now is Karen.
Yeah, I
Agreed.
agree.
Karen is, from my experience, is going to be very honest with you, this is what we need, and we are, none of us, I would say, on this board or any other board, are trying to cause you any more dollars and cents or delay anything.
I agree.
That's not what we're trying, but we do have to be respectful to our ordinances and our citizens of this community to provide a safe environment, bottom line. And
Yes,
that
ma'am.
includes the building, the fire department,
I
all of
totally
the,
agree.
water, sewer, all that good stuff.
That's another thing, there's nothing more enjoyable when you see people coming and, that the place is active and everybody's truly enjoying, it's all about families, right? Love, kindness. When you see everybody, that's, people say, well, I ain't got a restaurant experience. I'm like, we all do. Because we've all been to Big Boys, we've all been waited on, and all you do from the other side of it is just treat people like you want to be treated. It's all about the senses, what you smell, what you see, what you touch. And when you bring that together and you see a community coming with their families and boats and they're enjoying and it's safe, we're all about all that. I want Gary to walk through, excuse me, Gary, and check it all out. I want to see what we can make it all happen. We just need to know. So the sooner the better. But you said you haven't been, and I'm catching up myself, truly. You haven't been to the island yet.
Oh,
Would
I
you do
haven't
it-
been to that site.
Would
Yeah.
you do us the honor to come out there? Well, I mean, what's that?
I
Does
can-
that ask too much?
That's not asking too much,
I
no.
mean, seven seasons, believe me. I mean,
I think you got the right start.
I can have a bus here in less than an hour, we can all go.
Let's go.
No, but truly, did you do that?
Yeah, sure.
Gary?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, when can we do that?
They probably have to
Just
look
keep
at
it
it.
rolling,
It's
huh?
good for you guys, and I'll let you know if it works, okay?
What's that?
You'll let me know what your schedule is, I can double check mine.
Oh,
And then-
it's all wraps around whatever your schedule is.
Okay, well, I can
Truly,
talk to Tom tomorrow and we can schedule something.
okay. Right time.
That's good.
Like I said, she's your best ally right now. She'll get you where you need to be, along with
Okay.
the rest of us. We're 100% behind you. We want this to go smoothly. We already,
Appreciate that, thank you.
we already expressed our, call it concerns, whatever you want to call them, but we have to do a few things. And it's not probably moving as quickly as you want, and that's unfortunate. But we will get there.
But you can still maintain, you still have the marina.
Yeah, it's up and running. I was just there today.
Yeah.
You've seen it. It's
And you
there.
could probably still use the property and all that, the way you've been already doing it. They said there's no restrictions on a food truck, but start going through the motions so you can get this going, get everything going. If you want to do the ZBA, you got to get that going because it takes time. And then you can,
Margie
Yeah.
also sits on the ZBA, so it's very helpful. She's been here with this information, so if you choose to go that direction, she can also add the information from the ZBA.
because what's the worst that can happen? We say no, or it doesn't happen. I mean, you literally can, but if, you're not going to know until you start taking those steps. And you might get it, and then you have your 10 rooms and,
Margie,
And
if
then you
I'm
get-
correct, was you out there?
I was, yeah, it's
Did you walk
beautiful.
through Did you walk through the building?
I walked through, it was beautiful, you invited me
Charming,
in. It's
isn't
very
it?
charming.
Okay, good.
It's a lot of existing, so it was gorgeous, just gorgeous bar, kind of just beautiful view. I can see what it's going to be for you, and again, I think you're going to have phases. You're probably going to have to get things approved as you go along.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and you're already taking the next step, and I know you're itching to get going, and you want to start, and the summers are short, and they're getting shorter, and I get it, but obviously Gary and the fire department has to get through, because you got the public coming in there, and so you got to get them in there so they can tell you where to put your exit signs,
Right.
and your smoke detectors, and
All that good stuff.
if you need them, because you're not going to really have a kitchen, are you going to need,
Fire protection.
fire protection, are you going to have sprinklers, all of that, they have to come through and approve
Sure.
that. Because I think this is going to be big at one time, so you want to take the steps, you're not like putting the cart before the horse. So, because I could see it becoming really special. Like you said, a ship stopped there. I don't know if you guys know that, but they used to have like ships that stopped there to let people off. I mean, it was quite a place at one time.
There used to be a lot more out
Yeah,
Right.
They did that a lot of places on the island.
yeah.
Tajmu.
Oh, yeah.
there. Tajmu,
Yeah.
Idlehour.
Yeah, there's a lot of different.
But if you
Joe
can,
Medores.
you're going to be one of the only ones that probably maintained it to
Yeah, that was-
the original.
that was God.
Kind of original.
Someone was watching out for it, because
Yeah.
the rest of them burned.
Just the bottom line, it's going to be a big plus for Harson's Island and the whole Clay Township community. And, you know, I said on the board, so I don't foresee any reason why it wouldn't go through that in a
Right.
positive mode, so.
Right.
Thank you.
I mean, Harson's Island is special, so, and it's not easy to maintain a business there. It's because it's not easy just to get across the ferry, and it's not, you know, it's not
Right.
cheap to do that, so.
ferry dock there?
So I would like to make a motion.
Robert wants to make a motion, huh?
I'm going to make a motion.
Oh, wait a minute, just hold on.
I have one more question for you. I noticed when the department heads did a checklist, water and sewer, they say that you don't have any water.
Not city water, no.
You have a well.
No, I draw all the river like everybody else in the flats down there.
So, Tom, how are you going to purify the water? Are you going to have a reverse system, or are you going to have?
No, I do water purification on the side, you know, and I worked with Lowell Cameron in the
Oh,
state
yeah,
of
I do it for
Michigan.
the hospital too, and I just want to know what you.
Yeah, I use deionization.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, there's no reason to use RO on lake
Right.
water, because there's nothing in it except chemicals.
Right.
What was that again?
But we are, you know, we have, since we bought the property, you know, been exploring extending the water line, you know, to Venice, which we own the majority of that frontage. You know, but we've just kept running into, we're working on it, you know. Because actually, when I talked to, I think it was Anthony over at Project Control, he did a lot of the water engineering initially, and he felt that there was enough pressure, enough capacity to take it the extra 1,400 feet, you know, to our property and to Venice, you know, without going through a lot of engineering. But then I was told they're putting everything on hold, and, you know, the engineering was almost done on the second line, or I don't know where that even stands now, because it adds value. It adds value to the property to have the city water, for sure. You know.
And the only other thing I wanted to say, I know there's, 5 of us on this board that live on the island? It's very much needed, a very much needed thing on the island. I've been there for 31 years, and anything that can come to help, especially with preserving history.
Yeah, I know. I was a kid. I used to run in. I'd sneak in there and fish, and I was the 4Bs all the time. And later on,
4Bs.
I just don't want you to feel like, you know, no, it's definitely something we would all love to see.
well, this
come
was good.
through.
We got all the information I think we need, and we'll, you know, we'll do everything we need to do to move it along.
We appreciate you both taking this project on, or the whole group taking the project on.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
excited to see it happen.
Yes.
I think we all are.
Excited to see it.
Thank you.
I suppose, though, we need some sort of a motion to figure out where we're going on this group.
I'd like to make a motion to table decision on the site plan for parcel number 74-14-0391-000 until site plan is updated.
Second.
So we got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Just put up a number sign on the road, really, so I don't drive up your driveway at 7354.
Oh, yeah.
Any discussion?
Oh, no, you
Hearing none?
came down Venice? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, I think,
Wait, but hold on, let me just get this motion out of the way here. Could we do a roll call, please?
Whitey Simon.
Yes.
Harold Bain.
yes.
Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Chris Altunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb.
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
Margie Ferris.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Yes. Please stay in contact with her. That'll get you where you need to be sooner than later. And obviously with Gary, as far as the rest of it goes,
Yep.
okay?
And Whitey, we did have an address out there, but
It's
we had
gone.
a little tornado came through.
It's gone.
Blew the sign away, but then I Then I found out that I needed a permit to put a new sign up.
You don't have to come to us.
Don't come see us.
Then I found out that I had to be a licensed contractor, licensed builder to draw a permit, so.
Well, thank you very much for coming here tonight. We wish you the best.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move on to item 6B, which is proposed ordinance amendments discussion. That would be Karen?
We have a copy of our sign regulations, and Gary spoke with me earlier, and he told me that currently you guys don't have anything addressing electronic signs in the township, really. So this is a draft kind of to address some of those concerns, and the updated language is in red. It's under 1B, under illuminated signs. And these are just signs that would apply to the commercial districts. So C1, C2, C3, I1, and I2. Electronic message board signs shall only display the static message or image, no flashing, movement, or scrolling. Maximum display change speed shall be 1 change every 30 seconds. Such signs shall only be on during normal business hours, not to start before 8 a.m. or extend past 8 p.m. Signs can operate at a maximum of 0.3 foot candles above ambient light. Should the sign experience a malfunction, settings must be set to display black or turn off. Electronic signs shall only be part of a freestanding signs and follow all other regulations for freestanding signs. And a lot of this language is pretty standard for signs. The timing might be different for community, and the message change speed might also be different. A lot of communities have it at maybe every, 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds. This is kind of an extended one, but kind of keeping nearby residents, kind of taking them into account. That's why I put this draft at 30 seconds. Again, communities also tend to tweak the time that the signs can be up. A lot of communities do have a time limit on signs. A lot of them don't want them extending past, 10 or 11 p.m. The 0.3 foot candles is pretty standard across all electronic sign ordinances. So it's not too bright and causes glare for drivers and stuff like that. And then the second portion of the sign ordinance update was to help kind of curb the amount of signs that are kind of randomly put up on utility poles and along the right-of-way that technically shouldn't be there. I've kind of changed the language to say the display of miscellaneous signs and posters, including tacking, pasting, or affixing them in a manner visible from the public right-of-way is prohibited. This restriction applies to privacy walls, trees, poles, posts, and fences, as well as utility poles. Exceptions include legally required postings such as no trespassing, no hunting, beware of animal warnings, or other danger signs. And the second part of that is upon removal of signs, I'm sorry, the draft got cut off. But in red, it's supposed to say miscellaneous signs and posters in violation of this ordinance are included in this provision and will be disposed of immediately. So if someone has a bunch of posters that they've tagged up onto the utility pole and code enforcement decides to take them down, they're not obligated to just hang on to them indefinitely for someone to come pick them up. They can get rid of them. So those were the changes I've made to the sign ordinance based on request of the building department and some of their concerns about signs in the community.
Karen, what about, I got two questions. What about election signs? I know St. Clair has a ordinance on roadways where you put an election sign at. Does that cover that?
It could cover that. Typically, we don't directly address political signs because they're kind of protected under free speech. But again, if it's posted in the right-of-way, that sign, that's not your property, that sign shouldn't be there. So if someone wanted to remove it, they could. And there's no obligation that someone needs to, that if the township were to remove it, have to hang on to it or anything like that.
I know St. Clair, we'll take them.
St. Clair has, yeah, they do that, as well as, I know Washtenaw County, for whatever reason, I stumbled upon some of their sign regulations, and they make it very clear, please don't put political signs in the right of way, and if you do, we're going to take them and dispose of them, so.
On the electronic signs, what about existing signs that are out there now? Would that ordinance prevail?
Technically, anything that was put in before this ordinance would be considered a non-conforming sign. But if it were ever to experience any changes, or if they needed to get a new screen, those light levels should meet ordinance. And, yeah.
Could the township talk to that business and let them
It
know there
could.
is an ordinance that regulates that, and maybe just suggest that they follow the ordinance?
I think so. I think you're allowed to do that. Could they be penalized for not? I don't think so.
But it could,
You could talk to them.
code enforcement could
explain to
stop
them,
by
"Hey,
and
this is-
explain.
These are our regulations, and I think most businesses probably wouldn't take too much of an issue with it.
Does this affect the township sign at all?
It should.
For the very first one.
You
But they didn't have to do that.
read the second line from the bottom on the first red mark, and you included the B, must be set. The B was missing.
I'm sorry, for the illuminated signs? For the electronic signs?
The settings must be set to be set,
Oh,
not must
I'm
set
sorry.
to display. Right? You read it, be set.
Oh, he's talking about the next to last sentence. Should the sign experience a malfunction, settings must be set to display.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Settings must
You
set.
read it that way, and
Settings.
it was missing.
Must set to display, sorry. Yeah.
I don't know what everyone else thinks about the timing of it, 8 AM to 8 PM. What do people think about 6 AM to 10 PM? Just a little longer? A lot
I
of
was
these
thinking a
businesses
little
with
later
signs are
myself.
open past 10 PM, and,
A lot of communities have it till 10 or 11.
yeah, and I know of other communities with sign ordinances, and those are their timeframes, just 6 AM, people are on their way to work, the signs could be on, they could see what's happening. 8 AM is a little bit late, most people are already
I agree
moving.
with you on that, 6 AM, it should.
And 10 PM, some of these businesses are still open in operation because they are restaurants, mostly we know. But I do know that when you go to bed at 11 o'clock, if you are a neighbor to one of these obnoxious signs, that you probably would like it to be off by 10. So
I agree with that one.
I'm just thinking 6 to 10 might
6
be
to
a,
10 maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest complaints that I was getting, and obviously, you know, the main sign that we have out there right now is Cabana Blue.
yeah, I see it from my house.
Right.
And miles away.
It's not so much that, you know, the light is there, it's the changing
The
of that
motion,
light.
yeah.
And when that change of light happens, I don't care how dead asleep you are. When that light changes, it will wake you up.
Yep.
And I've got many complaints on that, and that's why I really wanted to regulate when we stop that. And, yeah, so most people, I think it's reasonable at 10 o'clock at night, it's kind of bedtime for people that got to work in the morning. And, yes, we put a start date just as a draft to say, you know, 8 to 8, all that can be adjusted. Even that 30 seconds can be adjusted. But I think, you know, when we talk about people driving at 55 miles an hour down the dike, 30 seconds, 55
Right.
miles an hour, you're only going to see.
You'll see
those-
one change, that's it,
Right.
yeah.
So that could be narrowed down. And if we have that hour change to be, you know, at 10 o'clock, then it'll stop. You know, just stop it, have a straight sign, you know, or shut it off, whatever you want to do.
I would think off at 10 o'clock. I think that is common for places that it's off, not just frozen on one screen. that the sign is
I
off.
can tell you, I come by there at 4 in the morning, and it's like a circus sideshow.
You can see, you probably see it as soon as you turn and hit
As soon as
Colony.
you turn by the Colony, man, it's like, oh, there's Cabana Blue.
Yeah, and that's what.
And the white
we'd
shows
like to
up.
curb, you know, so that those folks.
I mean, you don't
we
need
just
street
had
lights over there.
A house recently built.
Yeah.
There.
A rental.
They put no windows, there's one little one, but no windows on that side of the house.
Because of the signs.
Oh,
So
it's
that
bright.
they wouldn't see that flashing light.
That's not right.
So that's what, you know, I'm trying to accomplish here with that. You know, and one sign, people go, hey, that's cool. And I have gotten drift that we have another business that says, hey, we want one of those signs. And I'm trying to get an ordinance in play before that comes up so that we have an ordinance that will at least give us some regulations that will.
I know that Troy has an ordinance on illumination, because I drive Troy every day, and their signs are not even close to that. They're on 24, but the illumination is really low.
Yeah.
I don't know how many lumens it is, I'd have to find out, but.
And this isn't regarding the sign itself, this is the message board, right? I mean, they're not going to turn the signs off at 10 PM if they're still in business.
Just the electronic,
That
the
message
LED
board.
signs,
Okay,
basically.
right,
yeah.
okay.
The flashing, the
Karen,
disco lights.
Doing
Right.
.03 over ambient.
Yeah.
Keeps that,
Keeps that illumination level low,
yeah.
because I know it's bright.
Can you talk to the Coast Guard and turn off buoy 17 light flashing all night into my
Oh,
window?
that's kind
Oh
of
my
relaxing.
gosh, that's awesome.
Just shoot one out.
Only if you want the freighter to run into you.
Oh, wait, that's happened. Don't go there.
It is on.
Close your eyes, Whitey.
For the change speed, I put it at 30 seconds, but does that seem okay, or we want to reduce it to maybe 15? A lot of communities do 5, 10, 8 seconds.
Yeah, I think 10 or 15 would be good, because you won't see a change in the sign in 30 seconds. I mean, that is a long stretch. Because even 10 seconds, you'll see
Say 10 seconds.
a couple
10 seconds.
messages.
Well, I think like just turning illumination down, it doesn't matter to change the speed, because, you know, and I hate to bring Cabana Blue in this again, but, I mean, that you see the fire, you see the white bright lights, I mean, if you change illumination, they can do it as fast as they want, it doesn't really matter, because it's not gonna be that bright.
To someone that's sleeping though, even though I think it will, you know, so, a number of changes, I would still like to see us narrow that down. But the big number, I think, is shut off or freeze at a time of night when it's.
Oh, you're right.
I agree, yeah, I have seen it where the illuminance are down lower, and yeah, they don't draw your eye to it, not piercing the sun.
I do see
So
more
turn-
signs like that coming.
So make it 10 seconds?
Yeah, I do.
I think 10 or 15.
Well, 15, I like.
How about 15? Does it work? Anybody object to the 15? So we'll say 15 there, we say 6 AM to 10 PM, but totally off at 10
I have to
PM,
get the
correct?
10 off.
And you said the candles that's kind of what the rest of the,
That's pretty standard, and that is what's recommended. So the sign is still visible, but it's not, it shouldn't be causing glare or,
What's the township sign at?
I don't know.
Okay.
All these signs, you should have the ability to adjust all these settings to make it whatever, so, yeah.
So if we go the 15, then 6 to 10, totally off at 10, leave it at the 3 for the foot candles. Anything else we need?
The other thing the no flashing, movement, or scrolling. So, I mean, that would essentially mean that there is no changing of the sign if there's no scrolling?
No, you can still have it, think of like a marquee scrolling, and almost all communities have that, and the purpose is so the driver somehow does not get too distracted from the sign. Almost all communities have that requirement now, just for safety, but you can still have a change. They just don't want anything animated or moving images. You can have a still image, and you can change it. You can have a transition.
I guess that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
you can still have
is
a
the
transition, but you can't have scrolling text, something bouncing around like a
Okay.
screensaver or anything
Yeah, I was
like
just
that.
thinking
That's
the
what that means,
transition,
yeah.
not the,
Any more questions?
I'm trying to recall what the sign does as you come off the ferry.
I feel like that scrolls.
And it also has
on the
some
island
flashing-
Yeah,
Wait a second. Sign on the ferry.
Yeah.
No, as you come off the ferry, looking at,
on the board.
on the board.
Oh, you mean on the island
his
side,
scrolls.
that one?
No,
I
that's
feel like that-
scrolled. That's
It
scrolled.
scrolls, doesn't it?
It
Yeah, that's
scrolls.
scrolled. That doesn't flash.
No, it just scrolls. It's-
So that would technically be
I mean, it's non-conforming.
non-conforming.
It's illegal, it was allowed to be built, and then this ordinance got passed, or in theory, would get passed after it was already established. So it's legally
So, On a
non-conforming.
repair, they would have to conform to the ordinances.
Yeah.
They would, yeah, if they need to change the LED screen out,
Repair?
Well, even if it goes down, I mean, you'll see a block that might burn out. If that's a repair, then they'd have to conform to the ordinance, right?
Was that sign ever permitted?
Come on, come on, Gary, yes, it was.
Go check with Horvath.
He's a little dead.
No, but I'm just saying, if,
So
if
I
like,
think on any nonconformity, you can do maintenance on
yeah,
that.
okay, that's what I'm getting
So
at.
if you got a burned bulb, you can repair the burned bulb.
No, but I'm
That's not
saying,
gonna change it. But if they're going to change the size of that sign,
Right, okay.
make a difference, even in a nonconformity.
Even
there's
relocating it.
Even a percentage
Right.
of change that you could do, and it would still meet a nonconformity. But yeah, if they wanted to say, hey, we want to make this bigger and better, then they would have to conform to the new standards.
well, that's what I'm getting at, because
Yeah.
they gotta do maintenance on it,
But
like,
maintenance, yeah,
Okay.
maintenance would be,
all right.
So will this affect Cabana Blue?
I seen that look.
no, and that's why, Chris, like, we could go there and say, hey, we do
New
have
sign
an
ordinance.
ordinance. Could you please
Okay.
comply?
Technically,
And see if we would be a good.
They don't have to.
They don't have to.
Because it's
But you don't have to tell them that.
You don't have to tell them that. Okay. Yes. So Karen, at this particular point, then we have, our next step is,
the outdoor recreation,
Well, we
Oh.
still.
No.
we're still
Oh,
doing
then
Still on the
the-
list.
the posting of, under the prohibited sign section. I just kind of reworded what it says, emphasizing that it includes utility poles. That was the purpose of this rewriting, because administration had told me that the language just seemed unclear.
okay,
So that's what the purpose of this is, and also for the removal of signs that, and I'm sorry it got cut out, but miscellaneous signs and posters in violation of this ordinance are included in this provision and will be disposed of immediately.
Would we write further by the township, or?
Well, who's
would
gonna
there be
dispose of it?
Any further description?
That's
of
by
it?
code enforcement or code, or
Or something, just.
are included and will be disposed of immediately by code enforcement,
By the township.
by the township.
and just
Essentially,
keep it
GPS will pick 'em up and ditch 'em.
Okay,
And that was, this
I
was
don't wanna
just a
be the-
pet peeve of mine. I don't know, you see one sign out on a utility pole, then all of a sudden there's
Yeah, it
six of
grows.
them.
Yeah.
I think it's unsightly, I think it makes our corners look terrible.
Well, it does.
And that was just, my input, I hate them. And I thought, if we could clean up our corners and, at one point in time, back when it first started, remember when utility linemen used to climb the poles?
Yep.
And they don't even do that
Yeah.
anymore because of all the nails and tacks and everything else that have been created by these signs. They don't even do that, but in any event, it's still the unsightliness of that. And, if you don't want to do advertising it, do it legally, I guess. But I just don't like them out on the right of way, especially where we see them most is on the utility poles. So if we have an avenue, if we have an ordinance that says that, hey, we can take them down without notice, I think it's a good thing. It's one of my pet peeves. But I think it makes us look bad.
Well, since this is a proposed ordinance, we have to do a public hearing?
Yeah.
So our next meeting is July 23rd.
If the planning commission is comfortable with the changes we've talked about, and would like to move forward, we could schedule it for the next meeting.
Okay. What's the board feel?
We're going to add this campground one, or is that,
Well, I'm just
We
taking
could.
one at a
After?
time.
Okay.
I'm just taking one at a time, sorry.
nope, I'm sorry.
So if we're just discussing the sign ordinance right now,
Yeah.
is this board in agreement? And make a motion?
I make a motion to add the amendment to the sign ordinance for public hearing for the July 23rd meeting.
Yep, July 23rd. So we have a motion, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Whitey Simon,
Aye.
Harold Bain,
Yes.
Mark Bouchard,
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen,
Yes.
Christine Holcomb,
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes, Wayne Torno,
Yes.
Margie Ferris.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Yes, all right, it'll be set for July 23rd. So then Karen can move on to the recreational changes.
So we're taking a look at that commercial recreation ordinance with that specific language that requires the 10 acres. And I've kind of just tweaked it because I know when we had that applicant who came forth, it sounds like the planning commission was pretty split on allowing him to, whether you would consider it just being a permitted use and not having to go through this commercial outdoor recreation ordinance. And so the only change I made was for campgrounds with less than 10 campsites, the planning commission may reduce minimum acreage and width requirements if the site demonstrates that the use will not adversely impact neighboring properties. And I felt that that's language, I mean, this is still a special land use. It still has to go forth for a public hearing. But if someone had a smaller site and we're having a minimum amount of campsites, that they could avoid the ZBA process. And this is something that could be handled at a planning commission public hearing. How do you guys feel about that?
I love it.
Was there something, though, that the last applicant said they had to go under
Let me know.
5 to avoid something with the state? What was that?
Right, the state,
something-
yeah, in order to become a state campground, I think you have to apply for certain permits with the state. If you are having, and maybe it's 5 or 6 sites. Now, if you have more than whatever he was proposing, I guess, if he had 5 to 10.
That's why he's staying under 5, I believe.
He, and part of his argument was, well, the state doesn't require
Correct.
a certain acreage. So I don't think we're conflicting with anything. But in theory, if you have more than the 4 or 5, they still have to get a state permit. But if they're able to meet all that stuff, and the only thing that is holding them up at the local level is the acreage and width requirements, this gives you the flexibility to decide to move forward with it.
How'd you come up with the 10?
I felt like that might be an appropriate.
Just an update on what happened at ZBA. So the petitioner went to ZBA.
Yeah, Margie would probably tell us, but go ahead.
I'll wait.
No, you can tell.
This might help.
You can do my part. Go ahead. I love it. No, Gary, you'll probably explain it better than me.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So they went to the ZBA for, 3 variances, and he'll be coming back to you guys anyways, but not yet. Because he got, they approved to be less than 10 acres in the 600-foot frontage. But what he did not get approved for was the setbacks. He was proposing 15 feet on one side and I don't know, I don't recall. It
was the buffering,
But
right.
there was setbacks on the water side in the back too. They did not approve his setbacks. They felt that if he repositioned the RVs, he could meet those setbacks. And if not, maybe something closer to what was required. And the required setbacks on that commercial property was actually 80 feet. And he was asking for it to be 15 feet from the high water mark. So he's quite a bit difference. The neighbors next door, the only neighbors that were affected were against it. But they were so far away from it, and they felt, like I said, repositioning, they could get close. So they turned that down. The other thing that was before them was the strict requirements of the St. Clair County Health Department for sanitary facility. So ZBA also turned that down. They claim to have something that may be approved by the health department or something better than the health department requires. I said, if you have that, by all means, provide that information to the planning commission, and maybe they'll be okay with it.
Yeah, because he was asking
So-
for an exemption.
Yes.
That,
So-
not just, yeah, he was asking for an exemption, so.
Right, so that's what was denied. But he kind of says, no, I wasn't asking for that. But anyways, the,
But he said he had already had approval by the St. Clair County Health Department. He didn't?
no, he said he had a different system that would work differently. But any event, he's not coming back to you yet because he needs to redraw his site plan to come up with something, either the 80-foot setbacks or something closer to the 80-foot setbacks that he can then bring back to the ZBA, that the ZBA will say, okay, well, maybe we'll give you a variance for a lesser amount, not such an extreme amount that he was asking for. So don't look for him next month, but he'll be going back to ZBA first before he comes back to you.
Well, thank you for that report.
Thank you, Gary.
Whether you
There you
want
go.
it or not.
That was the only thing that
Should I just
for us.
cross yours off
Yes,
on
you could
this?
just cross it off now.
Sorry.
That's
You sent
okay.
an email to me about the,
Okay,
Yeah, I got that.
yes.
So another thing that we have to look
and the
at
only thing I
is,
wanted to do.
yeah, pay attention. Another thing that we have to look at is that I think that there is a need in this community for RV parks. And I'm seeing that there's an interest in that. You know, people spend big dollars, you know, close to $1 million for some of these big RVs. And the thoughts that, hey, we're going to buy this RV and tour the country, when they start looking at what fuel costs are and the time consumption and all that, I think they're more apt to settle it into maybe one of these smaller areas that don't have 10 acres, that don't, you know, just these RV parks, that they can pull it in for the season. And so there may be a need for something less than 10 acres, something that may house maybe 10, maybe more, but something that we need to look at closer as a need for the community. We just had a new ownership on an RV park that has been in distress for a while, and the new owners just took it over about 3 weeks ago, and already I see improvement on it. Back where the old Big River Grill was, over on the north end.
Oh, yeah.
And already I'm seeing some improvements in that park. So hopefully, and that's far less than 10 acres, but that's something that's been there for a long time.
Been there for a very long time.
So hopefully we'll see, or if we do or we don't, I think we'll see a need for more of these types of RV parks coming in that will need smaller plots of land to accommodate them.
Yeah, we just lost one over on Point Trumbull, you know.
Yeah, right, we did.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right,
I'm,
The RV park in Marina
right.
closed it up.
Yeah,
Well, I,
that one.
I follow a lot of those sites on Facebook and TikTok, and people are clamoring for a spot. Tell us your favorite spots, and, yeah. It's very popular.
I mean, they've got a couple right now, Bouvier Bridge, they have an RV park tucked in back there.
They
on
got
the
one in
other
New
side of
Baltimore,
the
too.
marina.
Yeah.
That's very popular. It's, bring them in the spring and get them out in the fall. I don't know the name of it. They have another one down in Ira, farther down, so you'll miss it if you don't
Right.
know where it's at. It's well, it's got landscaping that's well secluded, but that's another one. You don't know it's there unless you know it, but RVs fill that spot. Come breaking into breaking out of the weather in the springtime, it fills up. Come fall time though, it's cleared out,
Right.
and that's just great business.
Right.
Buy
But
their stuff.
Yeah, they do.
something we got to think about.
So the only amendment you've made,
That's
Is-
it. They still have to meet the same setbacks, but it's just, if they're having a less than a certain amount of campsites, and I just put 10,
sure,
the Plan Commission may reduce the minimum acreage and width requirements if the site demonstrates that the use will not adversely impact neighboring properties. And then they still have to meet all the other setbacks, all the other regulations that are in there. But, and again, like I said, this is still a special land use, so it still has a public hearing, public still knows about it, they can come and share their thoughts, and you can take those thoughts into your decision-making.
okay.
Hello.
Any other questions from
What
the
was
planning
one thing?
commission? I was wondering what he's
get it?
doing over there. What
I
are you
got it,
doing?
but it's-
The wasp?
Yeah,
It's the
I-
wasp. He was flying around. I see him.
I got a question, though. Before we, you're talking about that, what does the state require after 5?
You have to get a special state permit, and what exactly all that is, I'm not sure, but I think they need to come, they need to check it out, they need to do inspection. You might have to have, you are required to go through a state process as well.
And here, we're giving 10, but the state's gonna, so is the state gonna trump us?
No, because you're still allowed to, there's no acreage requirement or width requirement for the state. And that was the petitioner's argument of why locally is this a requirement, because the state doesn't require that.
You're still gonna have to meet
I
that.
wasn't at
Yeah.
that meeting, so that's why I'm
Yeah.
questioning.
Yeah, I
the
don't,
state
I
five and we're
can
giving
double
10.
check, but I remember with the petitioner's case, I double checked what the state had to make sure that we weren't already in that situation.
Right.
And we weren't, so,
I'm wondering if it was for permanent bathrooms.
I think that might be it. Yeah, I think they're going to want to see some type of permanent bathroom on
The
site.
state would.
The state will.
So with a permanent bathroom, you're talking like one that's stationary, or the one like they have them on the trailers now, where they have temporary, permanent showers, bathrooms and everything, and they come and unload them?
Yeah, I think over 5, I think they would be looking at the
A
bathhouse.
stationary bathhouse, okay, that's what I'm looking at, Gary, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah, and I think that's what the guy on Middle Channel is trying to avoid by utilizing that temporary type.
They're pretty nice, I've
They're
seen,
nice.
I've
They're
seen
very
some of
nice.
them, I mean,
You don't even know you're in one.
yeah, I mean, they're nice, but they're still temporary.
And if we want that to be a deciding factor, if we allow it for something under 10 acres, we could, if it's whether the 4 or 5 campsites where you don't need to go through that state permit, if we want that to be what triggers this wiggle room for you guys to reduce the 10 acres and the width of a lot.
So do you know exactly how many campsites per acre the state of Michigan requires?
I don't,
that? 'Cause
I
I
think
kinda
there is
Googled it, and I said
a
15.
recommended metric.
Recommended 15
I
per
c-
acre or something
Yeah,
like that?
I don't know what it is off the top of my
I
head.
Googled it, but I didn't look into it any
Yeah.
further. It said Michigan required, or recommended 15
Yeah.
campsites per acre. I didn't look any further.
So, I mean, you could offer rustic, because, rustic camp, you bring everything, you take everything with you. But I don't think you want to do that.
Well, they still, anyone could do that with,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
with what we currently have, as long as they're still meeting all the regulations. So as long as they, I guess, have a bathroom facility that meets the county health standards.
Well, you can do that because they have them temporary ones you wheel right underneath the trailer. You want to load the
Yeah.
trailer and take it and dump it.
So that can happen
At a site.
currently under our ordinance.
And this isn't an absolute, it says may reduce
Yeah.
minimum
Yeah.
acreage.
Right.
Right? You have
It's
to
not
look at
shall.
all the factors, right? So what one person might get approved, the next person may not, because it doesn't meet.
That makes it tough.
But at least
Because
it's,
it puts the onus on us.
at least it helps a little.
So you're hungry? Any other comments, questions, input?
I can look up and see exactly what that state trigger is, how many campsites, and maybe what they require, and that might help guide us a bit more
Okay.
in how we feel about this addition.
Well, if what you explained to us tonight is accurate, once you look
Yeah.
into it, and there wouldn't be any change other than what we've talked about tonight.
Right, because I still think having the, whatever current regulations we have in there, I think are important, and they help protect the surrounding properties for the use. Like, there's a reason why we have 10 acres. We had 10 acres there originally, but I think it was anticipating having a lot of campsites. And if someone is only having 3 or 4,
Which
and
they
it
always
sounds like,
determine.
and that might be something that we see more people trying to pursue, and if we think that's something that's needed and could work, then having language to support that would be helpful.
Okay. We'd have to set this for a public hearing also, correct?
Right.
So, what's the thoughts of planning commission members? Anybody want to make a motion, or do you want to wait till next month and have Karen come back to make sure she's accurate in what she's expressed and told us?
Is this going to impact the applicant?
Our current applicant, it, not anymore, really. If he decides to come back, he already got his variance for the width and the acreage, and that's all that this change would impact as well.
Okay.
So, if, in ZBA, those decisions run with the land, so he could come back 3 years later and decide to pursue this, he'd still have those variances, so this wouldn't really do much. Unless you guys wanted to modify it further. But I think a lot of these regulations are pretty solid as they are.
We go with it.
Me too, I like
I
it.
say we go with it.
Well, make a motion.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
He's making a motion to go with it.
Go ahead, Chris, if you want to make a
We got
motion.
3 now, we got 3 fighting for it.
I'll make a motion to set the section 20.43 recreation, commercial outdoor, for a public hearing on July 23rd, 2025.
Do we have a second?
Support.
Who supported Tom?
Skip.
Skip, sorry. Skip. So we have motion supporting and further discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Whitey Simon? Aye. Harold Bain?
Yes.
Mark Bouchard?
Yes.
Chris Otunin?
Yes.
Christine Holcomb?
Yes.
Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno?
Yes.
Margie Ferris?
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart?
Yes. Thank you, Karen. So item number 7 is the master plan review. Review pages 29 through 57. Karen?
These chapters that I asked you guys to review talk about population, households, housing, natural features, and resiliency, as well as, I believe, some township, the land use analysis. And I looked at what you guys had in this master plan, and I compared a lot of the data to what is SEMCOG projecting, and a lot of their numbers either come from 2020 or 2023. Some of them are 2024. Population-wise, things are fairly steady, and the projection is still fairly similar to what your master plan here from, I think, your numbers were from 2017.
You have more accurate numbers? for
They're
20
a little bit, I'd say they're more accurate, but the trends are basically the same.
We did lose a few more people in
You
from
did. I think your
2017, right.
current population, I think from 2023 is 8,446. Your median age decreased slightly. I think in 2017 it was 51, and now I believe it's 48. One of the trends that your master plan pointed out was that there's a lot of people in family forming years moving to the township. Well, now you're having an uptick in, your youngest ages picking up in the township. You're having more children than in your last master plan. But overall, the demographics are fairly the same at the moment. Households, according to SEMCOG, more people are going to be living alone and by themselves than what is currently projected in your plan. Not by much, but it is something to think about. For housing, I think at the time it said the median household value is $1,794,400. It's currently over $300,000 with all the housing market stuff. Natural features, I imagine, still fairly the same. I don't know if there's been new discoveries or anything new in there. For resiliency and sustainability, I'd say this is a fairly progressive section in your master plan that a lot of communities don't have. And I think it's still very accurate and pertinent. And I was wondering, after you guys passed this plan, has anything more ever happened to promote some sort of resiliency plan? Okay. I was just curious if there was any action on it, really.
Such as, what would be an example would be?
I don't live here, so I don't know what happened, but obviously these last few days were really hot. Do you guys have a cooling center open to any residents?
Yeah.
Or in the wintertime, if power's out, are people notified of any warming centers, I know this is not necessarily something zoning related, but
The fire department.
We basically have the Lions
The
Hall.
Lions Hall,
yeah,
Both
well,
in the
that's
winter
good.
and in the summer.
Yeah.
And we have this,
Yeah,
the boardroom here.
Yeah, no, we have Red Cross cots and.
Emergency management.
in your plan, they talked about the flood that happened a few years ago. And as a planner, I have to take continuing education. And a couple months ago, they had a really interesting webinar that basically talked about communities really need to look at their landscaping ordinances. And it's not just communities out west that need to worry about fire risk, but all communities, because the world we're living in is changing a bit, and the assumption is now that everyone's kind of at fire risk. Some communities really focus on flooding and flood management, but, what you plant can really exacerbate how things spread. And a lot of it is incorporating, again, more native plants and bioswales and stuff like that. And we always talk about this, but I have never seen a zoning ordinance that's encouraged anything like that. So that is something that is kind of, on the zoning side, a policy change that a community could try to take on to promote this resiliency and sustainability.
The only real threat we would have would be Phragmite.
I was going to say, they burn quick.
That's our biggest fire threat.
Yep.
So something to think about, you know.
I'm trying to eradicate it.
There are organizations and groups that communities can, at the very least, glean information on to figure out what might be best for their community. And as your planner, that's something I can kind of look into and give you guys some feedback on. But I thought this was a good chapter of your master plan. I currently work in a 6 communities, and no one's master plan is anything like this. So you guys are fortunate to have something like this in there. And the last section was your land use analysis. Things have shifted a little bit since this was last done, according to SEMCOG. I think your medical space, your acreage, I'd say the percentages are probably all roughly the same, but the acreages shifted around. I know your medical use decreased. Apparently, your office use increased, and some others, but I'd say everything's kind of roughly the same. So I guess at this moment, looking at this plan in these sections, I'm not seeing anything that would signify much of a change.
The recreation open space may increase by, 20 acres.
Okay.
That'll happen this year, maybe.
You're talking about the park?
The park, plus we have the park behind Ligas.
The pier? The pier?
Not the pier, we've got a park over there behind Ligas, adjacent to Ligas.
How much is that?
Huh?
It's very small, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty small, but if you join that with the park down here on the water.
County park.
County park, yeah.
It's been sitting there empty for how long now? That's been sitting.
Well, it's under construction now.
The county
Yeah,
park.
just started.
Yeah, they're working on it. It'll be done, whatever. Hopefully it'll be done by next year, so we can do the pickleball tournament there.
Yeah, that would be nice. Where's the parking for that gonna be?
Oh, they got parking in there.
There's parking. Fairly small.
Yeah.
Very small.
Well, very small, but you also have some parking in Kroger's lot.
Kroger's lot, okay.
And you still have parking downtown Algonac. You know, people park up that
And they
area
drive
now and
and they
walk the
walk,
other way,
yeah.
so.
That doesn't exist.
Well, it's designated at airport, but it doesn't really.
Yeah, Parsons Island Airport.
And I don't know how
Really an airport anymore.
detailed they want to give the percentages.
I don't think it's official.
Just a really day or two,
Yeah.
pretty fresh today.
I think the big lot.
Sure, one thing I saw, and I would probably just add a little blurb on it in the township hall, was that with the new exercise stations going around that on the path.
Oh, yeah.
Mentioning that.
Okay.
At least it'll be documented. Hold on.
And the pickleball court.
Tabs going through.
And the pickleball court.
Oh, yeah, too. Yeah, pickleball courts.
That was added.
And we're still working on San Souci wastewater treatment system.
Yeah.
That's work, and a lot of work going on.
State managed land was still too much.
Really. What the hell Harson's Island doing in there?
So any other comments regarding our pages for the master plan?
Looks pretty good.
A few changes and change the date.
Yeah, I'd say at least at this point in time, you guys could probably have the option of either choosing to readopt, or if you wanted to have a very small supplemental update that basically would be a separate document making some minor changes, like talking about, the exercise and sports facilities at the park. Sometimes it's good to have those little things in your master plan strategically, if you guys are trying to apply for a grant or say that, this is incorporated in part of our plan, having that supplement for certain items might help, depending on,
It should be the master plan, though.
right. I mean, this is, I'd say you guys have a very thorough, you guys had a really thorough update, and I don't think, at least as of now, I don't see a need to do another full-fledged update with workshops and charrettes and stuff like that, but, you could have like I said, you could have the option to readopt what you have, or have a small update, just updating such as like your current facilities and what else we come down the road, or if, certain goals, when we start looking at the goals and the vision, if some of those things have shifted, that'd be a portion
So
we could
this is
update.
not the end of our master plan that's in place?
No, this is like the middle.
So are we still on track from your perspective? Because I think you was hoping in the fall to have it.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, so we're still on track as far as that
Yeah.
goes?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll have more to read for July's meeting?
Yes, yeah. Probably anticipate the same amount.
Okay.
So, yeah. I think it was about 30 pages or so.
Yeah, something like that. Okay,
That's all.
that's it? Okay,
I
thank you.
have a question.
Thank you, by the way. This is nice.
What's up?
Under community facilities,
Yes.
they talk about ferry service.
Yes.
And the last sentence says, "A ferry service operating out of the city of Algonac provides transport to Russell Island and Walpole Island." And above, they talk about the Champion Auto Ferries with cars and people and bicycles. Now, Russell Island doesn't have any comparison with those two services.
No.
To the island or to Walpole Island. Shouldn't that be listed as a passenger-only service?
Would be more
Clarify that.
appropriate.
Russell Island,
You take bicycles over there?
Russell? Yeah, they can take a bike.
that's about all.
Or no Cushman's or a
You have a golf cart?
golf cart?
But Russell Island's in Algonac.
Yeah.
It's Algonac.
Right. I don't know.
So do you think that last sentence should be struck? Because it's
Well,
not,
if you want to include the Russell Island, it should indicate that it's personnel only,
Passenger.
Passenger, yeah.
passenger.
gotcha.
It is Algonac.
Now, wait, that's been in there for almost 6 years now.
Oh, not that long.
I was going to say 15.
We're not quite to the 5-year mark of this adoption of this master plan that we're in right now. It's coming up.
But you do think the demographics haven't changed
They haven't changed,
sufficiently to make a
not
change?
significantly to make us rethink what goals and the goals and objectives should be. I'd say things fluctuated a couple percentage points here and there. It's not a whole lot. But I would say you are starting to see, I would say younger kids from the young families that this plan talked about moving in, so.
You said you've seen an increase in office space?
At least according to SENCOG, it looked like and I don't know exactly how these metrics work, but it said that office space grew. I don't know what that means, but I was surprised because as planners, we've been hammered in, and I've experienced in my own family that, it's hard office space has changed a lot since COVID. So I was surprised to see that, but I'm curious what exactly does that mean,
Well, we have a lot of vacant capacity around here. I don't know if that's a part of it or not, but we also have the old shop-to-shop, I believe, that, Gary, have you been in there? I think it's an office building now? Huh?
What's it called?
It was the old Shop to Shop,
What is
next to the
it?
bowling alley, Cali Bowling.
That's like a storage building.
It's a private
Used to
kind of
be.
a building, it's not even,
It's for builders. Builders are storing stuff there. A builder owns it, or?
yeah, it's private storage and, yeah, it's not.
Well, I know it was
Call
before
that a
Masson,
business.
when Masson had it was strictly storage, but
Yeah.
we should,
Looks
I'll get the
great.
fire marshal to go in there and check it out.
Yeah, we've been in.
If he's storing something, then we really need to be in there.
Yeah, no, it's private storage in there, but we're working on permits for it right now. But yes, it's not a business, so that can't be included
Right.
on this.
No.
So, yeah, I don't know where they're getting the increase in
Yeah.
office. I don't-
Yeah, I don't know exactly what their metrics are or who they surveyed, but that's what it says. I was just a little surprised when I saw that.
Well, thank you for the information. We're going to move on to item number 8, unfinished business. I don't have any at the moment. Item number 9 is planning consultant report, which would be Karen.
I have no news.
Okay. Thank you for all your hard work on this, too. ZBA is item number 10, representative's report, but I think Gary just,
Yes,
You
we've
want a
seen
report?
one case, and that was that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gary, for the update.
Thank you, Gary. Did my job.
Board representative's report is 11, so that would be you, Mark.
You don't want to know.
Sure. Can you condense it so we really know?
Condense it.
Bev Rose is now the new trustee on the board. She was voted in last meeting. And they put on a,
Chief Rose.
pardon?
Go ahead. Wait, just ask me a question.
And they put on a deputy supervisor, as well as a assistant assessor for now.
Is that the same person or a different person?
Same person.
Same person.
And most important of anything is the Algonac Lions Club Pickle Tournament. Here's the book. I laid some out there for you
Oh,
all.
forget it.
It starts on July 3rd. You can take this home.
September.
July 3rd.
Bring your shotgun.
And on Sunday is the parade, and I just happened to be selected as the grand marshal.
Did you campaign for it?
No.
Good for you. Good, Mark. Well, thank you for your report. Item 12 is chairperson's report. I thank everybody for, we have a full board this time, which is nice. Our next meeting will be July 23rd. Wish everybody happy 4th of July. Appreciate Gary and Karen's hard work and our projects that we have going. Appreciate that. Other than that, I don't really have anything else going on, so. Item number 13 would be planning commission members' comments. Anybody have any comments?
If I adjust this, who could I send a copy to get it adjusted for us? This is their form that they gave us, and that's what they gave me for today.
Sure, make your adjustments, and I'll make sure Amber gets it.
Because there's no, I mean, for something that's not going to be
Board.
recommended to the trustees,
Sorry.
there's no reason to have a recommendation on there. So if it's, I mean,
Sure.
I think this is kind of overkill for like most of the stuff that we do. And if we have something that's being, I mean, unless I just deal with it and
Well,
not.
how
put
about
anything
this?
in.
Take that, make what your suggested corrections would be. I'll submit it to Amber, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Skip or Chris, anybody down with that on?
Nope, I'm good.
They're all set? How about Harold or, nope? Everybody's okay? Item number 14 is public comments. Anybody in the public wishing to come forward to speak, please state your name.
You're right on time, Mark.
Good evening. Mark Coletti. When I spoke at the Planning Commission on April 23rd, my 446-word transcribed public comment was reduced to 3 words in the meeting minutes. Let's see if you can do better this time, lest you expose yourself as a biased board which discriminates against those who express political views that run contrary to your own. The Harsons Island Transportation Authority, HIDA, used to hold regularly scheduled meetings until Islanders overwhelmingly rejected the HIDA millage in February 2024. Since then, there's only been one HIDA meeting in 16 months, and at that single meeting, there was no open public comments allowed. And here are a few more of HIDA's most dubious moments. The very first HIDA meeting meeting was on July 26, 2020. The very first motion discussed the frequency of HIDA meetings. Motion by Torno, seconded by Bain, to hold meetings on a quarterly basis. Motion passed 4-0, end quote. Next, on December 10, 2022, Paul Cassidy made a motion to increase all HIDA board member terms to 4 years, which was seconded by Harold Bain. Now imagine being publicly unelected and able to extend your own term length. Well, the HIDA board can. From the April 8, 2023 meeting, quote, per Bain, moving forward, HIDA will adhere to the Order of Business Section 3.01 as outlined in HIDA's bylaws. This is yet another example of HIDA's blatant hypocrisy. Now, the annual HIDA organizational meeting scheduled for March 9th never actually happened, and since the unelected HIDA board is accountable to nobody, I guess we'll never know why. But the most shameful HIDA moment can be viewed by everyone if you simply Google HIDA public hearing December 16, 2023, and watch the 51-minute mark of the YouTube video. Now, HIDA Article 1 is a disturbing example of un-American injustice. It allows an unelected board of a tax-exempt organization to have jurisdiction over all island residents who do pay property taxes. Another example of devious politics is Article 4, Section 2, which clearly states 3 HIDA board members are appointed by the Clay Township Supervisor and 2 appointed by HISCA. Also, there are no term limits for HIDA board members. Furthermore, there is no method for island residents to replace board members when the board goes rogue, which describes the current situation. Moreover, it is tyrannical that a large HIDA financial expense is, quote, redacted, and that the HIDA chair can call special meetings with closed sessions in which he can secretly purchase property and sign NDAs without disclosing any of this information to the island residents. Lastly, it is disgraceful that the HIDA chair recently blamed the Champion Ferry owner as his excuse for not having recent HIDA meetings, especially considering HIDA has openly chastised Champion the last 5 years. In conclusion, I publicly request regularly scheduled HIDA meetings are resumed. If not, the HIDA chairman and his vice chair should be removed due to multiple bylaw and meeting motion violations and for exhibiting character unbecoming of, quote, volunteers. They should be replaced by board members that actually serve island residents, not ignore or demean them. Otherwise, HIDA might as well rename itself to HIPTA, since it clearly has become the Harold Bain Transportation Authority. That's a joke, by the way. I have a few copies for the board, so my public comment is properly captured in the minutes this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone? Oh. Thank you. You know what? I'm going to put that in that packet. You got one? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who'd like to come forward and make any comments? I see no one else present in the room other than Karen and Gary. So, on to item number 15, adjournment.
So move. Support.
Motion and support for adjournment. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 9:12. Thank you.
Thank you.